We gather here today to dedicate a new shrine to those residents of the District of Columbia who served in the World War. The backwash of forces loosened by the Great War has grown until during the past 2 years the stability of many nations has been greatly shaken. But that emergency has brought a realization that the outstanding problem of statesmanship today in every country and every part of the world is to reestablish confidence, not alone each nation in its own institutions, but amongst nations. And no greater contribution can be made to economic relief today than the conclusive day-to-day demonstration that progress is being made in relieving stress and strain.
Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation, and at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. I regret to tell you that very many American lives have been lost. In addition, American ships have been reported torpedoed on the high seas between San Francisco and Honolulu. As Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, I have directed that all measures be taken for our defense, but always will our whole nation remember the character of the onslaught against us. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
Background to the Attlee-Truman discussions, 1 million people crammed New York Central Park to hear the president outline America's stand on atomic power.
There has been talk about the atomic bomb, scrapping all navies, armies, and air forces. For the present, I think that such talk is 100% wrong. Today, control of the seas rests in the fleets of the United States and her allies. There is no substitute for them. We must find the answer to the problems created by the release of atomic energy. We must find the answers to the many other problems of peace in partnership with all the peoples of the United Nations, for their stake in world peace is as great as our own. Indeed, the highest hope of the American people is that world cooperation for peace will soon reach such a state of perfection that atomic methods of destruction can be definitely and effectively outlawed forever.
It's the biggest day in the history of Abilene, Kansas. No need to tell you who's coming home, because Abilene's made perfectly sure you won't forget his name. A change of clothes and a change of title, he's just plain Mr. now, and Ike comes home to fight again, this time for the presidency of his country. In the true tradition of all presidential elections in America, a big parade is staged in the candidate's honor with scenes of his boyhood reenacted on decorated vehicles. Abilene makes it plain to Ike that as far as they're concerned, there's only one candidate in the race. But even if another should occupy the White House, Britain can be sure that Ike will always be among our stoutest supporters across the Atlantic. Picture of a man on top of the world. 43, U.S. President, pretty wife, lovely daughter. What more could any man wish? Jack Kennedy was born into a rich family whose fortunes were built up in the land of opportunity. But 110 years ago, his great-great-grandfather lived outside New Ross, Duncanstown, Ireland. Starvation faced him in his tiny farm cottage, and he emigrated to America. Josephine Ryan, Jack's cousin, lives close by. New Ross was excited when Jack was elected. Where are they off to? Maybe emigrating too to try their luck. The youngest ever president won't take office till January, but his election has been a tonic to America. He promises the new policy that will put the United States back into world leadership.
I ask your help in this effort, and I can assure you that every degree of mind and spirit that I possess will be devoted to the long-range interests of the United States and to the cause of freedom around the world. So now my wife and I prepare for a new administration and for a new baby. Thank you.
Nearly 42 million Americans dispelled all doubts. Lyndon B. Johnson is elected president by the biggest majority in the nation's history. This was the voice of democracy. Down in Texas, in the president's own town, the opposition was not prominent. With his wife, Lyndon Johnson went to the polling station, where it was an open secret that they were voting, as they say over there, straight Democratic. In Phoenix, Arizona, Republican candidate Barry Goldwater went in to cast his vote. There was nothing in his bearing to indicate whether he thought he had a chance, but like a good politician, he went through the motions. New York that night knew which way the contest had gone. And in their own senatorial election, it was victory for Robert Kennedy. He ousted the Republican Senator Keating. So the Kennedy family are back in the center of the political picture. Bobby may stand for president 4 years from now. hospital with a broken back after a flying accident is Teddy Kennedy, learning from his wife that he too is elected to the Senate. Elected senator on the Republican ticket by California is former film star George Murphy. Now Washington, the heart of United States politics, where some top people voted, among them the influential Secretary of State Dean Rusk, also the popular wartime general Omar Bradley. What a victory it all was for President Johnson. He went to the White House automatically when Kennedy was assassinated. Now he is president in his own right.
That this is more than a victory of party or person. It is a tribute to the program that was begun by our beloved President John F. Kennedy.
With his running mate Hubert Humphrey, Lyndon Johnson conducted a wonderful campaign. Good luck, Mr. President. Heathrow. The presidential Boeing jet eased into position. On board was one of the most powerful men in the world, making a goodwill visit. President Nixon, the new man in the White House, was welcomed to Britain by Lord Cobbold, the Lord Chamberlain. Leader met leader. There was so much to talk about and so little time in which to say it. Mr. Nixon was here for 2 days. Publicly, he spoke of the friendship between us.
It means, too, that we share something else. A common commitment to a peace that transcends national boundaries. And because we are partners in the quest for peace, we know that our relationship, that special relationship that we have, is not exclusive, because that peace that we seek, the two of us, will be secure only when all nations enjoy the relationship of trust and confidence that unite us.
Directly from the airport, the two heads of state drove to Chequers. The weather had prevented the planned helicopter flight to the Prime Minister's country residence. There had been little indication of threatened disturbances from anti-Nixon campaigners. American and British security men had clamped a tight ring around America's first citizen. The atmosphere at Chequers was relaxed and very cordial. In this beautiful English house, the two men chatted before dinner. This was only a prelude to the more serious talks which were to follow. Next day, at Claridge's, Mr. Nixon's London headquarters, he met opposition leader Mr. Edward Heath. The close and even closer relationship between Britain and America in the future was very much in the minds of those who met the president. But not everybody professed to have peaceful intentions. The strong escort looked after that side of things as the motorcade set off for Downing Street. The bulletproof limousine had been flown in specially from the United States. It looked impregnable. The huge and obviously friendly crowds which lined the route could have left Mr. Nixon in no doubt about his popularity with the vast majority. He was certainly at ease as he met Mr. Wilson once more. The outsized battery of pressmen from all over the world were on their toes for this very important assignment. When they'd satisfied the photographers, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Nixon, and high-ranking parliamentarians and diplomats from both nations went into number 10. Among them were Foreign Secretary Michael Stewart and the U.S. Secretary of State. Naturally, the Anglo-French rift was one of the topics which came under scrutiny inside number 10. But outside, the seemingly unwieldy procession smoothly prepared to take Mr. Nixon to his next appointment. So Mr. Nixon was on the move again. He'd indicated to the Prime Minister that a summit meeting between himself and Soviet leaders was still a major project in his plan. Politics, however, were to be put aside for a while. The President was on his way to meet the Queen at Buckingham Palace. The leader of a mighty nation had made a solid impact on Britain. Now he was to meet the monarch of the country which, he'd affirmed, had such a close friendship with his own. A Her Majesty and the Duke were entertaining the man who can, and doubtless will, do so much to shape the future for a peaceful world. Elegant surroundings of the Queen's home, there was a man who had come to this country a stranger, but who, within 48 hours, knew so well that he was amongst friends.